No matter what business you're in, you probably have regular suppliers and vendors furnishing goods and services that are necessary for your daily operations. Most of these contracts are designed to save costs over a period of time or generate revenue. So why limit yourself with restrictive terms and conditions when you don't know what the future holds? Hi everyone, Jackie Fleischman here, your premier resource to unleash your inner confidence and find your voice in negotiation, conflict, or challenging situations as they come up in your professional life. In this week's video, I share some tips and tactics for crafting contract terms and conditions that maintain flexibility while protecting the parties' interests. For as many positives as there are to long-term multi-year contracts, like for instance locking in a price or a rate for supplies and services, there can be just as many drawbacks. What starts out as a very desirable arrangement can often become untenable over a longer period of time. So why lock yourself into terms that could impede your business's success in the long run? Chances are, when you put the contract together, you were thinking that certain terms and conditions and promises that were made created a sense of predictability and control. But in reality, this couldn't be further from the truth. And you could actually be committing yourself to something that isn't in your best interest in the long run. I can remember when I was selling dental practices, more often than not, the buyer always wanted the vendor to stay on in the practice once the practice had been sold and do a very long transition period, like sometimes longer than 12 months. Even 12 months was considered to be long. We always used to advise the parties to put in 3 or 6 months maximum, to put in a clause in the contract that allowed either side the flexibility to re-examine where they were, and they could opt out of this arrangement if it wasn't working. Contracts are great tools to capture the needs and interests of all involved. Their main function is to equip each participant with a set of legal rights that provides guidance if something goes wrong. When this happens, at least there's a starting point for negotiation, but at the same time, most people go out of their way to avoid enforcing the rights and remedies spelled out in the contract, which means that they often use the rights and remedies as a last resort. So why go through all the trouble and headache of writing out a contract that no one really wants to follow? The short answer is because we use contracts to set expectations and create a path for fair dealing. But why not expand on this by adding some flexibility to common terms and conditions? For instance, there could be set times when certain terms are revisited and renegotiated to take into account shifts in the industry or shifts in the economy, even shifts in your own business if there were to be a downturn or an upswing. Another way to combat unanticipated changes is to consider conditions for early termination, which maybe you're going to include a cancellation penalty or some form of compensation if one participant believes that the contract no longer serves their best interests. A solid contract, an effective contract, should be flexible enough and fair enough to work through changing circumstances while at the same time managing expectations. The reality is that no one knows what the future is going to bring or how your business is going to respond to unpredictable circumstances. Savvy negotiators account for these unknowns, as well as the costs associated with a possible business or legal dispute. By including a coping mechanism early on, the parties are prepared and they can avoid litigation over a future business dispute. When the parties recognize that the business environment is unpredictable and they could both benefit from flexibility, uncertainties can be addressed early on to prevent the potential costs associated with litigation over a very serious business dispute. So, the next time you find yourself locking into a price, a quantity, or even a location over a longer period of time, think about giving yourself the wiggle room you need to account for growth, downsizing, or unforeseen changes that could impact your bottom line. I'm Jackie Fleischman. Thank you for joining me today. If you like my videos, please subscribe. I post one every week where I share some tips, tactics, and strategies. And if you want more information, please visit the website at www.jackievcoaching.com. Bye everyone. See you next time.